You just got home from work. You open the mailbox like any other day, except today you have a letter from the IRS. Or, even worse, the mailman has you sign for a certified letter. You're like, am I being audited? Am I going to jail? Do I owe a boatload of money? Over the years, I can't tell you how many clients have come into my office with a stack of unopened IRS mail. They have letters and notices that have come to their home or their place of business over a long period of time, and none of them have been opened. So my goal for today's series of videos is to, one, help you understand some of the more popular notices and letters that you might receive from the Internal Revenue Service, and two, to help you understand why it's important for you to open those letters and read them as soon as they arrive. I just got a letter from the IRS. That's the topic of today's series of videos on the other side of the intro.
1877 Levy King, Levy Levy King, 1877 Levy King, LevyKing.com.
What's up, you guys? I'm Corey Hankerson from Legacy Tax and Financial Planning, aka the Levy King. The IRS took your check, call the Levy King. I'll get it back. 877 Levy King, LevyKing.com. I'm also the author of End the Tax Nightmare: Insider Secrets to Beat the IRS and Reduce Your Tax Debt. And I want to give you a copy of my book for free. I want you to go over to endthetaxnightmare.com. Plug in your name, your email address. You can download a copy of the book for free. Inside the book, you're going to learn how to release IRS liens and levies, how to establish the payment plan that you want, not the one that they want, and how you can potentially settle your tax debt for less than you actually owe. Just jump on over to endthetaxnightmare.com, plug in your name and email address. You can download the book for free. Before we dive into today's video, if you haven't already done so, I want you guys to follow us on social. We're on Facebook. You can also find me on Instagram at Ice Cold Tax Pro, and of course right here on YouTube. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel. Also hit that like button and that notification bell so YouTube will let you know each and every time we drop a new video. Okay guys, so in our previous videos, the first video we talked about letters that you might receive during examination and audit. In the second video, we talked about letters that you would receive in the earlier stages of IRS collections. At this point now in the third video, we're deep into collections, and we're going to talk about the notices that you might receive at this point in the IRS collections process. Okay, so the first notice here is going to be the 668Y or 668C. Notice of federal tax lien. So if they haven't already done so, at this point, the IRS is definitely going to file a notice of federal tax lien against you. Okay, so the notice of federal tax lien is filed at the courthouse in the county in which you live. So it's a public document that lets all creditors and potential creditors know that the government has a legal claim against all of your property that you own now and property that you may come to own in the future for as long as the tax debt remains unpaid in an amount of at least $10,000, right? So what are we talking about? So this includes bank accounts, investments, vehicles, and most importantly, real estate, right? So that tax lien will attach to essentially all property, but real estate is where we see it become the most troubling, because when you own a home and they hit you with the tax lien, it makes it difficult to sell or refinance the house, right? If you're trying to buy a house with the tax lien, it makes it very difficult for you to go ahead and buy a house. Some of the other areas that I see that people don't realize is that the tax lien makes it difficult in terms of your job or occupation as well. See, if you have a job that requires a license, like if you're a nurse, or let's say that you're an attorney, or you sell insurance, or you sell real estate, for example, these are all industries that require a professional license. Most professional licensing applications or renewals ask if you have a tax lien or if you owe back taxes. So you'll have to address this issue of the tax lien when it comes time to apply for and or renew your license. And if you have a job that requires a clearance or background check, right? I have a lot of clients that work for or work as contractors with the federal government. They require security clearances. If that's your situation, then you definitely have to address this tax lien issue in order to move forward with your career or occupation. Then finally, the tax lien, because it's a public record, is picked up by the credit reporting agencies, which means that it will impact your credit and make it difficult for you to obtain loans or financing. Again, we're talking about real estate, but also for occupations as well. So it goes on your credit. So the tax lien is a serious thing, and it's something that you want to take action with right away. Now, there are several ways to deal with the tax lien, and in a future video, we're going to discuss and analyze all those potential options when it comes to tax. Okay, so they previously sent you a notice of intent to levy, and then a final notice of intent to levy. The next thing that you're going to receive is going to be a 668W or a 668A. Those are the actual levy notices, right? So now we're no longer talking about what they're intending to do. Now we're talking about what they have done, okay? So the 668W or the 668A is going to be served on your employer. Okay, so typically the way you'll find out that you have been levied is that your employer, your HR, your payroll is gonna call you and say, hey, we got a levy notice from the Internal Revenue Service, and they have no choice but to comply with the levy notice and begin to withhold from your wages according to how the IRS tells them, or else they'll be personally responsible for paying your taxes. And as much as your company loves you, they don't want to pay your taxes, right? So the Internal Revenue Service has more garnishment or levy power than other creditors out there have. Other creditors have lots of limitations. For example, in some states, you can't garnish any more than 25% of a person's income. The IRS is not limited by those rules. They can leave you with very, very little to live on. For example, a single parent with 2 kids who files head of household can be left with only $500 a week to live on. So if you earn $2,000 per week as an income, the IRS can take $1,485 out of that $2,000, leaving you with only 25% of your of your income. The levy will continue. That's also important. This is a continuous levy. It's not a one-shot deal when it comes to your wages. The levy will continue until the debt is paid in full or until you reach some sort of agreement with the Internal Revenue Service. Now, a bank levy, on the other hand, is not a continuous deal. It's a one-time deal, right? So let me give you an example. Let's say that 668A is served on your bank, right? And it says that you owe $25,000 to the Internal Revenue Service, and you have $30,000 sitting in your savings account. They're going to take out the entire 25 and leave you with 5, okay? One time, take the money out, they're done. But let's say you only had $5,000 in the bank, but you still owe $25,000. They're going to take the 5. They're going to leave you with nothing, but it's a one-time deal. So they're not going to continue to keep taking money out of your bank account just that one time, unless they serve another bank levy, which they probably will, right? But each bank levy is good for one time only, whereas a wage levy is continuous until the liability is paid in full, okay? The next notice that you could expect to receive is a 508C. This is a notice of certification to the State Department, the United States State Department, that you owe back taxes, and it is instructing them to deny in any application for a passport that you might file, or to revoke your passport if you already have one. This is a relatively new thing. It just came into law in December of 2015. It was part of the FAST Act, which stood for Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act. And part of that act, it authorized the IRS to certify to the Department of State that you owe back taxes. And it requires the State Department to take the action we just mentioned, which is, revoking your passport or denying your application for passport if you were to file one. So you have to owe at least $50,000 for that to come into play. And once that happens, the process of getting it undone can be difficult. So if you receive that notice, you really need to take action on it right away. Don't dawdle on that one. Don't wait around. Okay. The next up is the CP40. That's the notice that your account has been sent to a private debt collector for collections. Okay. This is also a relatively new one. And it's problematic because the IRS has traditionally told people that if someone calls you saying that they're from the Internal Revenue Service asking you to pay them money, you could assume that it's a scam, right? Just ignore it. Don't give anybody money if they call saying they're from the Internal Revenue Service. Well, that's no longer the case because they're doing exactly that. The Internal Revenue Service has private companies calling you to get you to pay your taxes. Now, the only way that you can know that it's legitimate, besides calling the IRS yourself, is by looking to see if you received a CP40. If you receive that notice, then that notice will tell you that your case has been assigned to a private debt collector, and it will have an identification number on that notice that you know that to identify you, and the private debt collection company who is now calling you should be able to give you that same identification number so that you know that they are legitimate. Okay. If you're receiving notices and letters from the Internal Revenue Service and you sort of feel intimidated and overwhelmed, then, why don't you consider hiring a professional to represent you? You can give us a call here at Legacy Tax. We know the rules and regulations of the Internal Revenue Code and have the experience to know how to react to situations like yours. You can reach us at
1-877